Good morning. It's another hump day. And so we are doing the hump day happy chat. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I'm Valerie Shepard. I'm coming to you live from the Hartley Center for Mindfulness and Self-Mastery, where we teach you self-mastery, which is mastering you in your life so that you can exquisitely manage whatever your life brings your way. And since life sometimes brings us some kooky stuff, the self-mastery is what really helps you maneuver through the kookiness and come out on the other side living as powerfully as you want to live. So a couple things about our beautiful Bliss Collective. Good morning, Bliss Collective. Thank you so much to all our members who are bringing in new members, all of our new members. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are a community on a mission, creating a movement for more peace, love, joy, and emotional freedom on the planet, starting with ourselves and then rippling across the world. Well, starting with our families, rippling across our communities, rippling across our areas, and then all over the world, these ripple effects connect with one another. So we're charting this course so that we have all the tools that we need in our lives to be able to say, I feel confident about where I'm headed, and I have all the tools and practices I need to manage the ups and downs along the way. Yay, that's what the Bliss Collective is about. Raising our vibration, adding more high vibration energy to the world around us, and then to the greater world as we connect our vibrations together and living in bliss, which is possible. It can sometimes feel like a land far away, but it is possible. So I love hearing from you. I hear from people in private messages a lot. I'd love to hear from you. On Fridays, we do our Ask Valerie Friday posts. So you can post your questions there and ask me, or you can send me private messages, or you can just comment. Like if you just put in the comments, even to these videos, I will come in and answer questions. I love making sure that I'm doing everything I can to help you do what I'm doing, which is raising my vibration and creating and activating and experiencing more and more bliss every single day, no matter what is going on around me. And I especially love it when you apply the teachings and then something happens as a result and you were like, oh my gosh, I did that thing and here's what happened. That's really awesome. And what's really awesome about it is other people could be watching. And so your experience could not only serve you, but it could serve other people. It helps people know they're not alone. So situations in a group dynamic, oftentimes it's like I see somebody else figuring something out and then I go, oh, wow, I need that. That's different than the way I was thinking about it. And the way they're doing it could maybe serve me. So one person sharing can help a lot of people. And then the other thing is, it also helps me how to refine the tips and the tools that I share so that I know for sure that what I'm providing actually is answering some of the questions you have or dealing with some of the dynamics that you have. So use the comment box and go ahead and post on your own. You don't have to wait for me or someone else to post to write a comment. You can just put in a thought on your own. And something special is coming. On November 2nd, I'm starting a multiple week adventure. Some people have already signed up. I'm very excited to take them on this journey. And some of you may have already heard, I've been sending some private messages out to people. My assistant, Maricel, will be sending some private messages as well to make sure people have heard about it. I've created a special invitation video. It's called This Is How You Soar, and I've posted it at tinyurl.com/myblissnow. That's tinyurl.com/myblissnow. And you can go there, check out the video, or if you're like, I want to be on this adventure, you can just click on the link and schedule a quick chat, and we'll check in. I'll ask you a couple questions and we'll determine if you are right to be on this adventure. So let's see if we can up level our games, get into more bliss now. So today's topic, am I communicating clearly? Am I communicating clearly? Communication is so crucial, and it feels like a timely topic given how many places it seems like communication is going awry. How many places communication is going awry. And I love this topic. It's deep, it's broad. You could talk for days. I mean, there are conferences that are multiple days that are all on this topic. And obviously in 20 minutes or so, we're not going to go that deep here. But there are a couple dynamics I want to bring to your attention. We'll go deeper into this on that my upcoming adventure that starts on November 2nd. But for now, see if you can like take the things I'm saying and unpack them in yourself and see what's going on with you around this idea of communication. Essential to communication is recognizing a couple of really important things. And I don't know this for a fact, but it feels to me like these are not things that we're often taught. We're not often taught these things. Even in post-secondary education, communication can be focused on a certain way of doing it. And some of these things are not included. So I'm going to go over a couple of things. Number one, it's a very dynamic equation. Why is that? What's so big about saying that it's dynamic? The complexities are enormous. The complexities are going on between the sender and the receiver, and usually neither one knows exactly where the complexities lie. We don't know where the landmines are. We don't know what the dynamics are that we're trying to navigate. We're just coming at it. Do you hear what I'm saying? So the dynamic equation, the complexities in that equation are not necessarily known as we're trying to do it. Number two, focus is often placed on sending. Here's what I want to say. We write out our thoughts, we think them in our mind, blah, 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 blah. But how important is the other aspect of the equation, the receiving, which is also the listening aspect. And we're often taught only one way to listen, which is with our ears. But communication is more than just verbal into the ears. There's nonverbal and other dynamics that are going on at the same time. And without practice, live practice at managing the whole equation, a whole lot in communication is lost. It's not even in the conversation, even though it should be. Interesting. And then when you think about the total thing, because of number one, it's a complex equation happening very quickly and many times. And number two, that we're not often listening or listening in such a way that we're quote unquote hearing everything that's being quote unquote said. Self-awareness is more critical than most people ever think. You can't really fully know what's in another person's heart or mind. So really clearly staying with yourself, in other words, minding your own business, really clearly minding what's going on here, what you're sending, what you're receiving, and why are you sending it that way and why are you receiving it that way? That's critical whenever there's another person involved. And for, when there's a multitude of others, or you're in a team setting and there's several others, wow, that's really important. Now, what if it's just you as sender and receiver? You as sender and receiver. We're talking about self-talk. And man, hold on to your hats for that one, because what we might do to the self shows up in what we might do with others. So let's play with this a little bit. So I used to spend time before I really got deeply into this. And by the way, I have my undergraduate degree is in speech communication, mass communication. So I've spent some time on the science and the art and the interplay of communications, a long time. And for much of that time, even though I had some really good head knowledge about it, I wasn't doing it very well. I wasn't doing it very well. I spent a lot of time in my head, in my mind, trying to anticipate what was going on with the other person, and therefore what was going to be coming out of them in our communication. What would they say after I said something? And then what should be the next thing that I should say to counter what they said in the best possible way? Have you ever done that? It can be the death knell to your communication. It can be the death knell to your communication. Why? Because you're so busy anticipating that when you're in your head anticipating, you're probably not doing such a good job of connecting or listening. I certainly wasn't. I was conjuring. So I was making things up in my head that weren't necessarily in the dynamic at all. So I could interpret that he's going to think like this and she's going to think like that. And so that means I should do that. But those interpretations were often wrong. We'll talk about why they were wrong. So instead of being fully present with the other, I was conjuring, and then creating my response based on my conjured idea of what was going to happen. And in many cases, if not most, that wasn't what happened. That wasn't what was going on. The dynamics in my mind weren't the dynamics in the true, real, present moment situation. So, is this you? Can you see yourself in my story? It doesn't have to be 100% you, but can you see yourself in it? So here's a self-awareness question. Do you know why you do this? Do you know? For me, I had fear of vulnerability. I had fear of intimacy. So fear of rejection. So my game plan was always to anticipate somebody else's next move so that I could be prepared. I sometimes think I was trying to be one step ahead so that I had already anticipated what they were going to do so I could plot my course and therefore I would look better. And I have traced a lot of this back to a number of dynamics, some of them having to do with being a female, some of them having to do with being African-American. There are all kinds of dynamics that I was trying to avert and move around and navigate. And now I'm understanding a lot more about how can I just stay present? Like, how is that the most powerful thing that I can do that allows me to come out of my powerful analytical mind, trying to manipulate and manage the dynamic between somebody that I cannot manage, right? An other, my interaction with an other, and focus it on managing me. And why am I rarely right when I'm trying to anticipate what another's going to say or do, which is number one, exhausting. Anticipating that is exhausting. It's energy that I don't need to spend on something like that. It tied me up in knots. You know, what if they do this? Well, I better do that. And what if I'll say this. And like trying to anticipate all the variations on the potential themes that were available in our communication. Yikes, it's a lot of work. Makes communication tiring and hard. But I was rarely right. So what's the point of doing it anyway? If it's not going to serve me to be right, if it's not going to serve me to do it better, what's the point? I'm just tiring myself out for nothing. It's like an empty hollowness. And why was I rarely right? Because everything in my story about the conversation or the dynamic is from me. Everything in my story is about me. It's coming from me. My interpretations about you are coming from me. My analysis of you is coming from me. And this may sound really silly, but here's what's really important about that. That means it's coming from my history, my past, what my experiences were, my interpretations of them, what was quote unquote good, bad, or ugly in my past that has not anything to do with you. They may be similar, but even if they are similar, your reaction or response to the similarities may be completely different. Haven't you noticed that? You go to a movie, you're sitting there with a friend, you're kind of similar, you like similar things, you think a similar way, you're watching the same scenes unfold in the exact same movie at the exact same time, and you come out and you have an argument about a scene. You have a very different interpretation and experience of that scene than did your bestie. Perfect example. So imagine as you're communicating how this is unfolding exponentially all the time. So another dynamic, listening on the receiving side. How much interpretation is going on with what they're saying? Are we hearing the pure message, or are we putting an interpretation over it? So they're saying A, and we're doing A plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4. And then we go, okay, well, based on A plus 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, my answer is going to be B. And then they say, well, okay, well, B, I only said A, but B seems like it's addressing something else, and I only said A. Have you ever heard that? Have you ever had someone say, you heard me wrong? You heard me wrong. What are they trying to say? They're trying to let you know that your interpretation of what came out of them is different from what they think they sent. My interpretation is different than what they think they sent. Wow. See the dynamic? I had a spiritual teacher who used to say, we're both talking, but nobody's home. Nobody's home. That's referring to nobody's home at their heart. We're both in our heads doing interpretation, analysis, anticipation, and trying to get it right, maybe even trying to be better than the other person so we don't let them see our weaknesses or our fears or our vulnerabilities. Does this sound at all true? Is it ringing at all true? Can you close your eyes and go, I just did that earlier this morning. I just did that yesterday. I just did that yesterday. So remember, in this bliss equation, we're always simply trying to be better than we were yesterday. It's not better than the person sitting across from us or sitting next to us or sitting behind us. It's not trying to one-up somebody. We're not trying to lift ourselves up by putting someone else down. We're trying to figure out how to dance with our lives in a way that we are in a high vibration, accepting ourselves exactly as who we are and doing better than we were a moment ago. Every time, just better than we were a moment ago. So let's think about this. What do we do when we want our communication to get better? So I'm just going to give you a couple of tips. Like I said, I could talk all day and several days on this, and it's not all going to, any issues that you might be thinking that you're having with communication, they're not going to be resolved in a 20-minute chat from me. They're going to be resolved on a longer journey, but these are some things that'll get you into noticing. Number one in transformation is noticing where things don't feel like they're at the highest vibration level. You have to notice what isn't where you want it to be in order to do whatever is necessary to get it up there, get it where you want it to be. So to do. So always breathe. We're always breathing deeper. Notice I'm taking a pause just to come back into this present moment. And I have to every now and then remember, I can take a moment. I don't have to keep giving and giving and giving. I can just relax. So you can do that too. Just allow yourself to take a breath. Give yourself the loving open-hearted surrender into, I'm just going to breathe right now. I don't have to get anywhere. I don't have to be anything. All I have to do is allow my body to do what it does naturally without me even thinking about it, is breathe. I think if there were more breathing pauses happening in dynamic communication right now, we'd have a lot less upset and anger happening, firing off, people firing off their responses. It's not about that. So breathe, come into your heart. The next thing is to remember, consciously remember the law of reciprocity, the universal law of reciprocity. Give and receive. Give and receive. When they're speaking, when the other is speaking, focus your energy on receiving what they're saying, not preparing for what you're going to fire back. Stop talking. I even have some of my students and clients, when we practice this, to stop talking. And I have to remind myself to do this, because when I get really fired up, and it's not necessarily fired up in anger, it's fired up in passion, fired up in I'm so into this, I want to share. So when I get fired up, and sometimes it is in anger, sometimes it is in frustration, I am going to be absolutely real. I can get frustrated, and I can also get impatient. Like, I want this now. I want this now. Why isn't it happening now? And I've got to remind myself. And sometimes I'm doing a great job at it, and sometimes I'm really horrible. But I'm wanting to remind myself, okay, let it be a give and take. I have to remind myself to be less in interpretation of what they're saying, which is me controlling what they're saying. You get that? When I interpret you, I'm controlling your meaning. I'm controlling the meaning. I'm deciding what I should get from what you're saying. And instead, if you want your communications to go a little bit softer and a little bit better, an opportunity is to interpret way less, pull out the interpretation, and lean forward into curiosity. Curiosity, to go on a discovery mission, however long that takes. How do you do that? You might ask clarifying questions. It might sound something like, wow, I think I am hearing you right, but let me just check in. When I hear you say that, here's what it brings up in me. Is that right? Is that what you intended for me to hear? And then the other person has an opportunity to say, oh, heavens, no, that's not what I meant at all. Or saying, yes, and I'd also like to add this to clarify. Or, yeah, that's it, you got it. So instead of interpreting and deciding for yourself, they meant that when they said that, you could just be curious. What do you mean when you said that? Here's what I think I heard, but I'd love for you to tell me. Is that what I was supposed to get? Interpret less, go on a discovery mission more. And then number 3, watch for your own blamey, shamey language. Like, I hate it when you do that because it makes me feel. That's blamey, shamey. You made me feel. So now you've just made someone else responsible for your response, your reactions, and they're not. Even if it looks like it, they're not. Your reactions are coming from inside you. And oftentimes your reactions have to do with whatever they said, pinging off your idea of taking it personally, and it's pinging off of wrapped up in your past. Whatever your past wounds are related to the situation and the dynamics of the conversation, that's going to come up in how you experience what they said. And so the blame and shame is really not on them. It's on, ooh, what's going on in me that I'm hearing it this way, feeling it this way, and wanting to respond that way. No one makes you feel any way. It's all coming from inside you. And the sooner you recognize that, the better all of your communications can be. This next step can really help with that. Stay in neutral. Stay in neutral as you receive, regardless of what they say. Even if they are putting blame, you don't have to hear it with blame. You could say, oh, that's just going on. That's what's going on with them. They're in a blame place right now. Doesn't mean what they're saying is true. Doesn't mean I have to receive it that way. I could be a container of love no matter what they say. My love is big enough to receive your anger. My love is big enough to receive your hate. My love is big enough to receive your confusion. My love is big enough to receive whatever you want to throw at me. Stay in neutral or in high vibration of love. But at the lowest, if you only let yourself go down to neutral, you can do this by not taking anything personally, allowing them to be where they are, to have their upset. And because someone is upset with you, doesn't mean you have to take it on and make yourself feel bad. Because you said this, I now feel bad. That's not fair. It's also a way that you try and control how the other person speaks. That's not fair either. The other person has a right to feel their frustration and communicate that. How you receive it, that's on you. Otherwise, you're asking the other person to only speak a way that you can receive. And how would they know how to do that? Unless you're asking them to be smaller than what they are, so that you feel bigger than what you are. You get this? It's really beautiful. It's really dynamic. There's nothing wrong. It's just a coming into an awareness of, oh, I hadn't thought about it that way. Oh, I can see how I can do this differently. And then in your self-talk, when you want to up-level your self-talk, it's all about three things: compassion, tolerance, and love. How can I be more compassionate with myself? How can I be more tolerant of myself, accepting my highs and lows? When I do things really well and it serves me, and when I do things not so well and I want to go back and do a do-over, have a mulligan. And inside love, where can I add laughter? Where can I add the healing power of laughter to show me it's all okay? Everything's very, very right. Just do it better next time. And for all of this whole equation, clean out the emotional junk in your trunk. As long as there is emotional trauma, emotional anger, emotional upset, emotional resentment, emotional less than, I am less than, then all of those dynamics are kind of come into play in every communication you have, written, verbal, nonverbal, all of those things, Instagram, Facebook, virtual, any of these dynamics where communication is happening, your emotional junk in your trunk is going to be layered on top. So clean it up. That means noticing, accepting, acknowledging, forgiving, healing, and transforming. Healing and transforming what's in you. That's it for today's Hump Day Happy Chat. Here's a reminder. We go deeper into these teachings and even more, especially on the cleaning out the emotional junk in your trunk in my upcoming adventure that starts on November 2nd. Go to that link, tinyurl.com/myblissnow. Watch the special invitation video that I put there. You'll get some teachings and learn more about this adventure. And then if you want to see if you're really fit for it, you're really right for it, you're really ready for it, you're really up to it, book in a quick call with me and we'll have a quick 15-minute chat. That's it for today's Hump Day Happy Chat, which I always close with the Karanaya Metta Sutra, which is the prayer of loving kindness from the Buddha. So please open your heart to this as I speak the words. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be happy. That's us, you and me, all beings. May all beings awaken to the light of their true nature. And when you're in that true nature, your communication reflects it. And may all beings be free. Many blessings, Bliss Collective. Thank you so much for being here. See you next time. Bye.